What's going on, y'all? I'm your host, Cool Colas, and you are now tuning into a new video on my channel. For today's topic, I'm going to be doing a quick review of the movie Straw by Tyler Perry, and I'm also going to be going a little bit into my thoughts on this whole controversy of there being people who are complaining about Tyler Perry representing black women improperly and negatively in his movies. So let's get into it. I'm gonna be honest with you all of this crying about Tyler Perry and him having negative images of black women are falling on deaf ears at this point, because I have been saying this for years and years and years, and so have a lot of you. And let's be real about who is saying this and why they are saying this. Everybody is saying this because of the fact that when people saw this Straw movie that came out, they saw these negative and depressing images of black women being shown, because that was the theme around this movie. And while it's true that they were negative and they were depressing, and we can obviously tell that Tyler Perry has a fascination with trauma sauce, let's just be real. The true point here is that the people who have the issues with this portrayal are really black women, specifically shea butter sambas. And yes, y'all, that means that we got shea butter sambas on both sides, those who like the movie and those who didn't like the movie. Either way, these are people who are generally revolving in the sphere of what's going on with Tyler Perry. And ultimately, it's the same problem, and it's that there is a focus on the micro aspect of what's wrong with Tyler Perry. What I mean by that is they may have seen this movie because it's now a sensational thing and it's something that's popular to talk about because it just came out. But Tyler Perry has been misrepresenting black women or representing them negatively for a very long time. Medea should have been enough for people to see that he was mocking black women, and everybody just ate it up. And after a while, the shit just ended up just not really being funny. Let's just be real. My point here with all that is I could see this from the jump, and many of us, especially black men, were able to see this from the jump as well too. We knew that Tyler Perry had a certain audience who he was appealing to. He had a target audience, and he had a product that he knew his audience liked, and it worked for him. And that's why he has as much money and as much wealth and success as he does. It's because he knew exactly who he was marketing to, and it worked, and it still worked. Although we can be frustrated that he has these portrayals, you cannot be surprised. Even Taraji P. Henson was over there kind of caping for Tyler Perry when she was questioned about Tyler Perry and his negative portrayals of black women in his movies, and she was doing everything that she could to defend him because, of course, she's on his payroll, so why wouldn't she? It makes sense why she would do it. But regardless, we really need to dive all into that. One of the things that she said specifically was that, well, he has a studio, what do you have? That's quite ironic and even hypocritical, because consider the idea that just, I believe it was about a year ago, or maybe 2 years, I can't remember, Taraji P. Henson was crying on national television about how she wasn't getting paid as much as, you know, these other white actors and actresses who were in certain roles with her and whatnot. And now here she is talking about how we should overlook the morality of the way black women are portrayed because of a hierarchy. So she was upset about a hierarchy that was clearly ruled by white supremacy. And then here she is excusing a negative hierarchy that misportrays black women and excuses it because, oh, he's successful. So now your level of success is an excuse and a cop-out for negative portrayals. And even worse in Tyler Perry's case, poor writing, because that's part of it too. His writing is poor. And every time somebody calls him out against it, he's very defensive. So that doesn't really tackle the issue of black women being negatively portrayed. Oh, it's fine because he makes a lot of money. Oh, it's fine because he's successful. Oh, it's fine because he has his own studio. So all of a sudden hierarchies don't matter to you. And then she tried to also counter by saying, well, he's also presented good images as well, too, which doesn't tackle the point of there being negative images and there being also a pattern of negative images of black women as well. And she tried to talk about the 688 movie, and she talked about how that was a positive representation. I saw that movie, y'all. The movie was all about this story being inspired by the perspective of a woman who had a zaddy, and the zaddy was inspiring her to, be a part of the military and all this other stuff. So they told the story from the perspective of a black woman who was in love with a white man. So that already tells you a lot about this idea of black empowerment and that being a positive black image, or a so-called positive black image. Anyway, we won't go there today. Let's kind of stick to the topic here. The point here is that a lot of people are criticizing Tyler Perry for his negative portrayal of black women, but he has been doing this for a long time, so it's just a little bit too late to really be making this claim when we've been saying this for a long time. Although it's valid, it's that the problem is that you're a little late to the party, because he's been doing this for a while, like I said. But the other thing to consider too is the bigger problem with what he's doing isn't just his portrayals, but it's the fact that he's literally a poor writer. There are so many other images that we could actually see that he actually has the power to portray, but he chooses not to because he just wants to tap on his target audience. I mean, we could see images of black people in roles that represent them properly. We can see images of black women who are represented in high regards. We can see positive images of black women. We can see images of black stories being told that don't necessarily have to be based on a true story, but real stories that actually show positivity when it comes to the black community as a whole. Positive relationships between black men and black women. But the thing about Tyler Perry is he literally has all of the bad things. He has negative images of black people. It's not just black women, of black people in general. He has poor writing. And also, too, he has a very testy, defensive, and whiny, bitch-made attitude whenever somebody brings up that the stuff that he's doing is actually not that good in the first place. Anyway, moving on to this Straw movie. So I saw the entire thing because I saw a lot of people were talking about it. Here's my quick thoughts on it. It was a trauma sauce shit show. I don't know how else to describe it. It wasn't as bad as some of the other movies that I've seen, but nonetheless, it was still a trauma sauce shit show. And so the way that I interpreted this movie, it was kind of it was like a Timu John Q to a certain extent, but with Tyler Perry's writing, of course. And to me, when I saw this movie, it just showed the same trend of what we tend to see in a lot of these different movies that we watch. The problem with a lot of movies that we see is that a lot of people watch them to try to get away. They use it as an escape, but they forget that the movies and television shows as well too that they're watching actually are means of propaganda that show certain messages and teach the audience and people who are watching to believe certain things based off of what they're portraying in these stories. So it's not really a getaway or something that's like a guilty pleasure where you don't really have to think about it too much. It's kind of just a fun thing that you can watch, or something that you may even take very seriously. This is something that when you watch it, you are literally being indoctrinated and trained to think in the way that the person is telling the story thinks. And as you continue to watch things from different producers, from different creators, you're learning to think in the way that the messages that they portrayed have trained you to actually think. So Tyler Perry is also a part of this as well too. So whether you realize it or not, you're going to start believing that the things that they're portraying to be good messages versus bad messages is the way that you're actually going to handle real life situations. But couple that with the idea that Tyler Perry himself said that when he writes stories, he writes about what he perceives to believe to be real life scenarios that he sees all the time with black people. Going back to the premise of the movie. So you have this woman who's played by Taraji P. Henson, and her name is Janiyah, and Janiyah is living in the projects, and she has a daughter, and the daughter suffers from seizures, and she has medication she has to take. Janiyah hasn't paid her rent, and her landlord is trying to throw her out. She has this boss who's an asshole to her. Every time he gets there, he be talking to her crazy. He be telling her, she needs to, get in, to the register, and he be, telling her he needs to get the F out of her face, all types of stuff. He talks to her real crazy. And then, at one point she says that she gets a call from her school, and then she has to rush there. The boss is kind of not letting her. She gets there, finds out that the kid, was taken because, she had bruises and all this other stuff. So she's made to seem like she's not really a fit parent. So she gets her kid taken. She ends up getting her car crashed into by this suspected white supremacist who threatens to try to shoot her or try to basically pick her off legally and all this other stuff. So you have that situation happen. So you have this good cop, bad cop situation that goes on as well too. And then at some point she finally, gets her check after she goes, she gets fired by her job because their boss basically gives her 30 minutes to do what she needs to do after, again, talking to her crazy. She goes and tries to get her check. She goes to try to work again, and basically he fires her because she ends up being 2 hours late after everything that happened. And then she tries to go get her check later because the check was right there. Her thing is, I can just take it right now. The boss is being an ass. So he said, well, I'm just going to mail it to you, although it literally was right there. She goes to get it later after having all her stuff thrown out of her apartment and whatnot. And then while she's there, the dude is about to get robbed, and then the dude who was about to rob both of them, she shoots that dude, and then she gets tired of my man talking crazy to her, so she shoots her ex-boss as well too, takes off, goes to the bank, and then tries to cash her check. And then while she's doing that, they're like, can I see your ID? She don't have her ID or whatever, and then it turns into a thing where she tries to hold them up, hold the whole bank up, and then that turns into a big old thing. That's the short synopsis of the story. But I'm going to tell you who I actually think the real villain is of this story. Although they try to give you a lot of smoke and mirrors, when I watch this, they try to make it seem like, oh, well, the healthcare system is a white supremacist because, they were trying to basically pick her off in traffic, and they had the whole good cop, bad cop thing. It was the fact that she had a bad day. It was the fact that the world was so bad. But I guess conceptually, we can say the villain was the old niggas, but realistically, the villain, from my perspective, was her mother. Now, I don't have a lot of information, but that's part of the reason why she's the villain. Because again, I said that when a lot of these creators, they try to portray certain messages in their movies and TV shows, they often tell you who the villain is or what the truth is based off of either little information or no information. So it's important for us to pay attention to the things that they either seldom tell you or aren't really saying whatsoever. If you look at this, there was this constant nagging of these old niggas, even when she was doing the bank heist, of them talking about, so you should be happy for the life that you was given. I mean, this woman literally gave a whole speech about all the bad stuff that happened to her, and you got some old ass, decrepit ass Negro who's still telling her that she should be lucky for the life that she has, although she just literally said that, I worked 2 jobs, my boss talked to me real crazy, I lost my daughter, you know what I mean? The white supremacists, they gave me a ticket, threatened to shoot me, all this other stuff. All this happened in the same day. I got thrown out of my crib. And, you got these old niggas literally preaching the same message of you's best to be grateful because you's could have been born in the 40s. We had all this bad stuff happening. You just don't know how lucky you have it. So they try to do this all throughout the damn movie. So they were foreshadowing that this was an issue. And the reason why I'm going to say this was the old nigga, specifically her mom in this case, is because there was one part where she's talking to the bank manager, and the bank manager is asking her, about her daughter. They're having a conversation about it. And she's saying, when you lose your daughter and, you don't get custody of her and whatnot, who do you want your daughter to go to and whatnot? Do you have family? And she's like, oh, no, not my family, not my family. My mom and my sister, they can't go with them. They can't go with them. They are not an option whatsoever. It was very clear that she did not want her daughter to go with her mom and her sister. But I'm going to focus on the mom because the mom is the parent in this situation. I believe that she probably had somewhat of a toxic environment that was going on with her mother, and they were just not trying to get focus on it. So that's why they kind of pushed it to the side. I noticed throughout this entire interaction, we did not even hear from her mother till the very end, where she said, hey, I'm here to remind you that your daughter actually died yesterday, or your daughter died yesterday. Maybe she didn't even know it. But the point I'm trying to make is that she was kind of cold and candid about it, and they portrayed her in the way that they typically portray a lot of black parents. There's this thing where You know, a lot of times with these old niggas, black parents who are old niggas, they try to make that parent seem like an angel or like the best person ever when, you know, there's strangers around. But then behind closed doors, this person is a terror, a nightmare, and probably emotionally, spiritually, and maybe even physically abusive. So that's the problem here, is that you see this trend of these old niggas portraying themselves as figures who should almost be like gods, people who should be praised and loved and cherished and treated well, no matter how they treat their kids or the people who they raise. And in this situation, you can kind of see that, because you can see her hesitance in wanting her daughter to, and this is what, even with her being like not in her right mind, she's not wanting her to be raised or to live with the mom, because she knows what she probably experienced underneath her mother. And also too, for her to just be in the projects and, you know, shit doesn't really go right in her world and all that. And her mom seemed to be living a decent, comfortable life. She kind of seemed to be chilling and whatnot. You know, what's up with that? What happened there? Why were there not tangibles that you could pass down to your daughter for her to have an effective life, or to be able to have some type of comeuppance? Because she didn't seem like the type to be lazy. She seemed like she was trying to do everything she could to keep her daughter. So why would she not benefit from any benefits or things like that that you had for her, unless that was not really the plan? I think the mom was somebody who probably was emotionally abusive, and somebody who she felt like she had to get away from desperately. And she's somebody who didn't provide her with anything that would allow her to succeed. She had to just go and get it on her own. This is what I mean by a lot of these people who produce these different movies and TV shows. They tend to portray messages that they want the audience to also believe and manifest as well too, things that they will end up practicing in their normal life. He has a tendency to push a lot of Christian dogma, and also this over obsessive praise of old niggas and all this other stuff, despite the fact that they may do dastardly, horrible, or emotionally toxic things. And so in this case, the same is true. So we could sit there and say that, oh, well, the villain is herself because look how she got herself there. Or the villain is, you know, the white supremacist, which in a lot of cases, you know, a lot of the stuff obviously is the white supremacist. Or the villain is, you know, the healthcare system. Or the villain is this, it's that. No, it's the old nigga who put her in the situation. Because remember, I always say the villain is somebody who caused the majority of the issues that you see in what you are looking at. And the reality is that there's a great chance that Janiyah is in the situation because she ran away from the toxic abuse that she got from her mother, who seemed to be very cold and distant, even when telling her that her daughter died, therefore revealing that she was having hallucinations. And also, too, it makes me wonder, these hallucinations that Janiyah was having, where did that start? Where did that come from? How did she get to the point where she had these mental health issues? Like, where did that start at? And it makes me think that for her to have these hallucinations while also being extremely resistant to her daughter staying with her mother says a lot about her childhood upbringing and what may have happened there. But again, we see this often. A parent who pretends to be an angel in front of strangers, but is the devil himself or herself in front of their kids and in their upbringing. Anyway, my point here is that this is all about trauma, and this is all about indoctrination and manipulation. And what I really don't like about this is typically a white supremacist tactic. And here Tyler Perry is trying to practice this live and in living color the same way that they do. We need black people who are going to do constructive things, such as having their own studios, having their own writers, having their own stories, having their own everything, but are actually creating real positive images without negative messages and indoctrination that is going to brainwash the black community and not allow them to think in an empowerment mindset. All right, y'all, hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I also hope y'all enjoyed what I had to say. If you liked this video, I would love it if you liked it, subscribe, share it, and hit the bell icon so you get notifications for whenever I come out with new content on this channel. Other than that, I will talk to y'all later. Peace out, y'all.